Joining me now is Jim Brown, Jim Head with Brown University. He's a professor in the Department of Earth, Environmental, and Planetary Sciences. Thank you so much for joining us. Always great to see you.
Thanks, Elaine. Happy to be here. Very happy to be here.
Well, I want to get your reaction to this achievement and really the significance of it.
Well, I think, my first job out of graduate school was working for NASA and the Apollo program. So I've participated in every one of the lunar landings by the astronauts. And I tell you, it never gets old. It's really exciting, nail biting, all the way down to the surface of the moon. And it's not easy to do. So this is a very significant thing. This is a private company. NASA is trying to develop sort of like a Federal Express to space. Okay, you pay the company to take the payload. NASA will pay the scientists to develop the instruments, and then it goes to the moon. It's much cheaper than doing it all through large government entities, et cetera. So it's a great day, a successful mission, touchdown, and there'll be plenty more.
You mentioned, your participation over the years. Is this one of those moments that will become where were you when this happened? What went through your mind as you saw this all unfold?
Well, pretty much the same thing as with the Apollo landings. It's very exciting. You know everybody has their heart and soul invested in this, and you want it to be successful, but you know that the chances are maybe 50%. And so when it is successful, it's really important. And I would say, yes, it'll be a moment to remember into the future, mostly for us scientists, because we have an experiment that NASA has selected us to build this experiment to fly to the moon in 2027 on one of these commercial entities. We don't know which one yet because they're trying to make them successful. So the success of intuitive machines is really important for people like me and graduate students who want to develop and fly an instrument that can be done in 4 or 5 years. So it's extremely exciting, and I think a great step for the future. Is very inspiring to youth. It's very inspiring nationally and internationally. And we just have to keep exploring. It really informs us of a lot of things.
Some tense moments on Earth after this moon landing, trying to make contact with the craft, trying to figure out if it landed. Can you tell us what happens next? Are they checking for any damage? And when do the missions and the tasks begin?
So literally it begins when it lands. But at the same time, when you send a spacecraft down, if you listen very carefully to the flight director, he was talking about a slight deviation in yaw, which is a part of the orientation of the spacecraft. And what that means is that if it landed, the antennas weren't necessarily pointing exactly to the right place on the Earth. So you may have heard this, okay, let's check with this station in England, let's check with this station in Australia, et cetera, because those can perhaps reach it better. And that's when they finally got the weak signal back. And they'll work to find out how to improve that signal. It probably means the spacecraft's just oriented a little, but it's really hard to land in this very rough terrain in the South Pole. That's partly been the problem with some of the other missions that have been unsuccessful. It's not like pulling into a gas station and fueling up. I mean, there are so many different places that things can go wrong, and it's just a miracle we can do this in the first place. So it's very challenging, but these are the kind of challenges that let us do things all over the planet, for improving health, for doing medical research, for all sorts of things that really challenge us in other ways.
Professor, we heard about the cost of this mission. There's this private company involved. There are sponsorships. Is this a future? Is this what we can see for the foreseeable future for these trips into space?
I think that, NASA has always engaged commercial entities, business, if you will, to build the spacecraft. The Apollo lunar module, the command module, all these things were built by different companies, okay? And so NASA's always been developing this key technology and the challenges to make them be able to develop these capabilities. But it's really to improve the number of people that can work, the economy, et cetera, and that's what NASA's trying to do. So SpaceX, which launched this to the moon, was one of those companies. They got a lot of NASA aid to build the company, et cetera, and now they are, in fact, sending rockets out to space, and also sending, astronauts up to the International Space Station. So it's a really good plan, and it's good to see it successful in having a private company actually design, build, and run a spacecraft mission independent of NASA, except for the funding, and be successful. It's just I don't want to say it's a miracle, but you know, when that thing touched down and we got a signal back, you certainly breathe a huge sigh of relief. It's just incredible what a team of people like that could do. And finally, when it was in orbit, getting ready to land, they had a problem, and they took an extra orbit to solve that problem on the ground, upload a new patch to the spacecraft to fix it and work in another way, and it worked. So this is the kind of thing that enables us to do all sorts of other things in addition to going to space.
One last quick question, Professor. What do you hope to see and what will you be looking forward to in the coming days as this all unfolds?
Well, I think again the operations. Landing is the first step. That's the first step. It means you've gotten to your destination, but it's like with the moon. Once the astronauts landed on the surface of the moon for a particular mission, that was just the beginning. We had the mission, so people had to. We had plans for traverses, sample collection, deploying instruments, etc. So that's exactly what we'll be looking at in the next few days. How successful are they in deploying the instruments? How essentially the meat of the mission, if you will. And one of my friends from Apollo, David Scott, the Apollo 15 commander, he we were communicating by email during this thing, and he was kind of comparing it to where they were when they were going around the moon and getting ready to land in the Hadley Apennine region, and it was a real thrill to share that with him too. So he had a good thumbs up for the Intuitive Machines team. I mean, it's fantastic.
All right, great to hear from you, Professor Jim Head at Brown University. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much.